Good morning. A Course in Love, Day 8.
And today we're going to learn to accept the present as exactly what it is. It's actually going to turn out to be a whole lot better than we think it is once we really get into all of the various ways that we're going to see how to accept what's wonderful, the presence that we get today in the presence of the present. It's a lot of fun when you get here. I hope you get here soon. Let's learn how to do it.
Accept the present. Some of you have felt, once again, a bit of disappointment or resignation as a result of our dialogue concerning not removing yourself from life. Lots of us want to escape. Your whole purpose in pursuing the course of this dialogue may have been, at least subconsciously, the idea of removing yourself from normal life. Even the conditions of time of acceptance may not have cheered you fully. Now, with the ideas of the conditions of time of acceptance, fresh in your minds and hearts, let's return to that earlier discussion. If you can't remove yourself from life, what choice do you have but to join with it, to love it, love yourself enough to accept yourself? Yesterday, I heard a recording, and there was this lady was describing something. It was, I wish we could all love ourselves the same way that our moms loved us.
Mm-hmm.
If we could all just love ourselves that much, the world would be so much of a better place.
Yep. And we can. Read on.
Here. All right. 8.2. If you can't remove yourself from life, what choice do you have but to join with it? Love it, love yourself enough to accept yourself. Love will transform normal, ordinary life into extraordinary life. Loving exactly who you are and where you are in every moment is what will cause the transformation that will end your desire to remove yourself from life.
That's logic.
Yeah, I don't know if the way I read that, if it made sense.
Yeah,
Loving
sure.
exactly who you are. Yeah, it's full acceptance with love. Loving exactly who you are and where you are in every moment is what will cause the transformation that will end your desire to remove yourself from life. All those frustrations you currently feel have a purpose to move you through them and beyond them to acceptance. But here's the point that needs clearing up. This is not about acceptance of what you do not like. This is not about acceptance of what you do not like. Do you really think you're being called to accept normal life?
Duh.
Called to accept those conditions that make you feel unhappy? No, you're being called to an acceptance of new conditions.
He doesn't use exclamation points very often, but he sure used two of them in a row here.
Agreed. Yes. Realize that your desire for life to be different, your desire for your unhappiness to be gone, is very unlikely, in truth, to stem from the details of your life. Even so, you're not called to accept what you do not like, but to accept that you don't like whatever it is you don't like. Sure.
Hello.
My preference is I don't like that. Then and only then, when you have accepted how you feel, can you respond truly. Only when you have accepted how you feel do you quit labeling good or bad. Only then can you deal with anything from a place of peace. And you have to deal with things from a place of peace. Because if you don't, you won't make good decisions. You won't do the right thing. You won't communicate the right way. That's my struggle. That's the answer to my struggle. Does accepting that you don't like something cause a judgment to occur? No. Opposite. Do you judge peas if you don't like them? Or carrots? And yet, do you not accept that you are at the mercy of situations of all kinds? A job you don't like? You may not like it. You may say often that you do not like it. But you may just as often say that you accept it. You may, in fact, need a job that you don't like, but in acceptance of the simple truth that you do not like your job, you have accepted yourself, your higher self, and where you are at now, rather than the external circumstance. So it's not about the external circumstance, it's about accepting yourself and how you feel about it and being accepting of that.
You're accepting that your higher self is not that comfortable here, but you have your higher self, and you will get through it just fine. You are your higher self.
We are not, when talking of acceptance, talking of externals, but internals. We are not talking of the old adage or prayer that calls you to accept what you cannot change.
Drum roll. I wonder why you're laughing, Lee.
Because the serenity prayer is where that comes from, and that is my
Of course.
go-to prayer. That is the prayer that I've used more than any other prayer. It's my
That prayer got you to where you are today. And it's going to now, when you see how he changes it, what it really means, it's something that they couldn't have understood in the notion of the serenity prayer. So,
okay.
but it was implied.
Yes.
And it's all there.
We are not, when talking of acceptance, talking of externals, but internals. We're not talking of the old adage or prayer that calls you to accept what you cannot change, but of acceptance, absolute, unconditional acceptance of your Christ self, your higher self, your big S, capitalized self. Yet to state that you do not like your job is to prejudge your job, to assume that the conditions that you did not like yesterday will be the same today.
Mm-hmm.
Now you may have been thinking, again, at least subconsciously, that your real self has no feelings of dislike, and in this confusion have been trying and even struggling to accept that what you do not like in order to be more true to an ideal self. Yet this ideal self is not the self you are right now. You cannot accept only an ideal self. This is nonsense. Can't you see this? All the power to change, all power to effect change comes from acceptance. Not acceptance of the way things are, but acceptance of who you are in the present moment.
Hallelujah.
Not through acceptance. Not through acceptance of the way you want to be, but the way you are in the present. Right now. Okay.
I'll say it again just in case you didn't get it.
I know. So should I highlight it 3 or 4 times?
Do it in
Not through
different colors.
acceptance.
You'll have a rainbow.
Sorry, say it one more time. I could have a rainbow.
Yeah, if you do each one.
8.8. 8.8. All power to effect change comes from acceptance. Not acceptance of the way things are, but acceptance of who you are in the present. Not through an acceptance of the way you want to be, but of the way you are right now, right now. There will be many things within your life that will take some time to change, but many others that can change instantly through this radical acceptance. You'll find, once you've begun to practice acceptance of the present, that there will be far fewer things that you do not like, and that you will be shown in the relationship you have in the present the response to those you still do. Gossip is an easy example. Gossip goes on in many environments. You're highly unlikely to like gossip, but you may have felt that to say you do not like it is to judge it, or to accept what is to accept that people gossip. These false ideas about acceptance may then have blocked your own true feelings and true response. However, a simple acceptance that you do not like gossip taking place in a present moment situation will enable you to not participate, judge, or appear to accept that which you do not truly find acceptable. All right. Tell me how you think that would play out. If you're
Well,
in the office, there's people standing around, they're gossiping. How does that play out so that in that present moment, you don't feel judged, you don't feel like you have to judge? You're not aloof.
you,
You're
well,
there, you're present in that moment.
you back out gracefully. You just don't jump into the gossip and add to it because you
Hmm.
don't like gossip. That's all. It's not something you do. You used to maybe, but you just don't do that anymore. You have to make anybody feel bad. The idea is to not add to the conflagration that's going on in the first place. You're not going to add more logs to that fire.
Mm-hmm. Here, here.
That's all.
Not all situations will seem as easy as this example. Acceptance does not require any specific action, but it will lead to action that is consistent with who you are when you're fully comfortable in your acceptance of who you are. Understand, however, that this eventual outcome will never occur without the initial acceptance. This acceptance is the only thing that will truly prevent judgment, for it does not require that you be your brother's keeper, but only your own. It requires you to know yourself without judging yourself. Will knowing your dislikes cause you to be intolerant? This is an important question. You've been intolerant of yourself, and it was easy to extend this intolerance to others. Once acceptance of the self begins to be practiced, you'll realize that the self of intolerance was the self of fear. The self of intolerance is the self of fear. Acceptance of yourself, this is great. This is a great phrase.
Mhm.
Acceptance of yourself in love leads to acceptance of others. Knowing this aspect of how you feel, what we are here calling your dislikes, is but a first step in this beginning stage of acceptance, and only of importance because of your intolerance of your own feelings. Because
Mhm.
remember that you've only been told that your real self, higher self, will be intolerant only of illusion, and that this intolerance will take the form of seeing only truth rather than attempting to combat illusion. It's not even a negation. It's a simple replacement entirely of the illusion with the truth.
Well said.
It's going to come through, though. It's a confusing. Again, this is one of those things it seems so deceptively simple, impossibly untrue, but something that we need to accept and do. Remember that you've been told that your real self will be intolerant only of illusion, and that this intolerance will take the form of seeing only the truth rather than attempting to combat illusion. The combating makes it real to your inner self that puts you in a suffering state.
Mm-hmm.
It's the cause half the time. Oh, maybe all the time. Anyway, thus, when you see others gossiping, you're called to see only the truth of who they are, to see beyond the illusion what would seem to be the fact of their gossip, to the fear that feeds that. Yes, and beyond that fear to the love that will dispel it. Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
The fear that feeds it. It's not a real fact. Okay. You're not called to walk away in disgust, showing your righteous contempt for the actions of others, but to accept who you are within the relationship of that present moment. To smile and love is the answer.
Yes, it is.
Even this type of seeing will have remnants of righteousness attached to it if you don't accept the feelings generated by it. You may know that you dislike gossip only because you have been both a participant and a victim of it. And who hasn't?
Mm-hmm.
It may still call up feelings of shame or irritation. It may still intrigue you if you're interested enough in the subject of the gossip. To walk away from gossip, accepting that you don't like it without accepting the feelings associated with it, will make of it a mental construct, a rule you've set up for your new self to follow. And that's a mistake. This is what we're trying to get away from. We've got a ton of rules we've put on ourselves for no reason already.
Mm-hmm.
If this becomes the case, you'll find yourself adhering to a standard rather than acting from who you are. You will have, in fact, returned to judgment because you will have made a predetermination, just as in saying that you do not like your job, you predetermine a continuing dislike. Soon, you might see a group of people who often gossip and assume they are gossiping, rather than observing the situation for what it is and responding in the present. Nothing gets us in more trouble.
Yes, it does.
You really need to be present in order to observe. If you replace the act of gossiping with a mental construct or rule that says you do not tolerate it, then you will become intolerant.
There it is.
And because you will act from a predetermined standard, rather than feeling the feelings associated with gossip in the present moment, you'll soon find that a bit of gossip will crop up in your own speech, couched as something else, something even worse than gossip. You will sigh, and referencing something someone said or did that but shows that they are not yet as advanced as you, only through revealing through your reference that it is you who are not as advanced as you think you are.
In other words, it's like saying, I can't stand people who are intolerant.
Yes, I can't tolerate people who are intolerant. This is the importance now of accepting yourself in the present and of understanding certainty. Certainty cannot be predetermined, just as you cannot predetermine either your dislikes or your likes. Being aware of how you feel in the present moment is the only way to certainty. being aware of the truth is the only way to get that certainty. Thus to say, you know what?
Mm.
Thus to say that you are certain that you do not like gossip, or certain that you do not like your job, or even certain that you do not like peas, is an inaccurate use of the term certainty. It may have been consistent with the word certainty as it was used in the past, but you will not want to confuse the term and the condition. You may think that you may think that taking away from the type of certainty associated with the term of certainty will cause you to be even less certain than you were before. You will be less certain in your judgments and opinions, but this is highly appropriate and much needed practice for true certainty. We have talked little of feelings here, and there has been a reason for this discussion coming so late in our time together. To accept the feelings of the self of illusion would have been to accept the feelings generated by the fear of the ego thought system or the bitterness of your heart. It would have been to accept the feelings of a personal self who had not yet unlearned the lessons of the past or taken these steps toward elevation. Now, however, it's crucial that you come to acceptance of yourself. In the present, as you are, for only by doing so will you come to full acceptance of who you are and be able to allow the self of unity to merge with the self of form, thus elevating the self of form.
That's a very powerful statement.
That's how you
The
get there.
self of unity to merge with the self of form, thus elevating the self of form.
And you
It's
only get there by full acceptance
mhm.
of all the sides of you.
Yep.
You will also, only in this way, come to true expression of the elevated self of form. Access and expression are both conditions of the present. Another error can occur if you deny your feelings in favor of the perceived higher path to enlightenment. In denying your own feelings, you'll tend also to deny the feelings of others. You'll think that you know the real from the unreal, truth from illusion, and so will disregard the feelings of others as if they do not matter. This will only happen if you allow yourself to deny and thus become distanced from your own feelings.
Denial being the obvious
Yes, I'm not feeling that way.
difference. Right.
Does this
Opposite.
seem confusing? To be called to see only the truth, to see beyond illusion, and then to be told to accept the feelings of others, it should not. While true compassion sees only the truth, this does not mean it holds the feelings of anyone, not those living in truth or those living in illusion, in disregard. That wouldn't be accepting them.
Right.
This disregard is a temptation of those who live in peace, a temptation unlike the more pleasant temptations that were spoken of earlier.
Mm.
This temptation stems from one thing only, from not living in the present.
Right.
Distancing or non-acceptance of your own feelings is not living in the present and will create an attitude that will not be compassionate. Watch out for that. This is why we talk specifically here of dislikes. While you are prone to acceptance of that which you like, piece of cake, yeah, to those feelings that you think of as good feelings, you're still prone to non-acceptance of that which you do not like in yourself and others, and even to, at times, the false sense of certainty spoken, false sense of certainty about your non-acceptance that we've spoken of. When you develop a false sense of certainty, you see not the true self, the true higher self, and the holiness of the true self being expressed in the feelings of a present moment situation, but see a future where the true self will be more evolved. Evolved enough not to feel the anger or hurt, the bitterness or guilt that you don't like. You hold others to the standards you hold yourself, thus the only standard that is consistent with the time of acceptance is that of acceptance.
It
Now
it
you must realize,
it kind of simplifies it. Acceptance is really important, but it's important to understand what it is you're supposed to accept. And what you're supposed to accept is that you are a higher self already. You have been elevated. You are elevated, and you can accept everything that's there. But accepting who you are means it's okay for other people to be who they are at the level that they are.
and if your ego inside your brain right now is screaming at you that this is not the truth, this is craziness, then you just know that you're on the right track.
Very
That
well
you can
said.
take a nice deep breath and accept those feelings as where that is right this moment. And that will help you take a step back a little bit and see that it's just that crazy little ball of thoughts. Those emotions are right there. They don't have to be the fog that's all around you. They're just right over here.
Good.
It's so hard to know whether any of this stuff would make sense to anybody. It's part of how you communicate in relationship, and you get a sense of whether something really makes sense or not. These are confusing thoughts to somebody who's living right here, right now in this world. As we try and accept it, it's still
Well, if they're living in if anyone who's listening to this has not had the background of the Course in Miracles, which led to this course of love, um, you can always add to where you are by going back and reviewing some of it, um, or trying to move on. And we're going to keep moving on
yeah.
because it's still the real truth is still not complicated. It's just hard to get to if you got a bunch of illusions in the way. So we're
Yeah.
doing our best to clarify by reading this. And in my case, for example, something I read a couple of days ago took a couple of days for it to kind of almost like a bell just ring loud when I realized, oh, that's what he was talking about. Like the word certainty. I became certain of something. And there was something in my mind that said, now you are certain. It wasn't a voice, but it's like a realization that I didn't know for sure that that was going to be okay. Now I'm certain. And that certainty came by applying some of these things.
It
As you
feels like
do,
it's something clicking into place.
yes,
And then, oh, all right, moving on to the next thing. It almost instantaneously with the certainty comes the ability to move past it and onto it. And that's that uh, uh, not illusory, elusive. It's so elusive because we are trained that as soon as you're on to your next step.
hmm
Well, why can't we hold on to that feeling a little bit longer so that we take it with us into the next step, knowing with certainty that we're accomplished.
that's right.
Anyway, to getting across, I hope
It,
so.
it's hard to say these things sometimes, but a person also who's struggling, you never know what they or you, who's ever listening, will get out of what we're saying, even though to some people it will sound like a bunch of crap, frankly.
Mm.
You'll catch the piece that you need. And that's why we're doing this. We're hoping that we can help you and communicate with you in a spirit of unity so that we all move forward and elevated.
Here, here.
Okay.
All right.
Here in the present.
I can't remember whether I read 821 or 822,
No,
so I'm just gonna
you're up to it. You're up to 821.
okay. 821. Now you must realize that you no longer have cause to fear your feelings. They will no longer be the source of the misdirection of the past if you accept your feelings in the present time and begin to be aware of your natural ability to respond truly because you have accepted your feelings in present time. This is a recognition that by being in the present, you know your feelings are of the truth. This is certainty. This is all that will prevent you from reacting to the feelings out of your previous pattern. This is a recognition that by being in the present, you know your feelings are of the truth. This is certainty. And this is what labels you to do. If anger arises in you now, it does not mean that you will react in whatever way anger once called you to react. And it does not mean that something is wrong with you or that you're not spiritual enough. It simply means that you're involved in a situation or relationship that has called forth that feeling. It's in the expression of that feeling that who you are is revealed, not in the feeling itself. The feeling is provided by the body, a helpmate now in your service as a route to true expression. Remember always that we work now to unite the self of union with the self of form. The self of form cannot be denied now. This is a continuation of the reversal of some of the ideas that you began in A Treatise on the New. Let me repeat a passage from that treatise here, a passage about the power to observe what is. It is not about observing a potential for what could be if your brother or sister would just follow in the way that has been shown to you. It is about observing what is. The power to observe what is what will keep you unified with your brothers and sisters rather than separating you from them. There is no power without this unity. You cannot see others as other than who they are and know your power. Non-acceptance in any form is separating. There. I was going to highlight some of that other stuff, but this is really all you need. Look at that one paragraph. That's a great paragraph. I like 825. Non-acceptance in any form is separating. Period.
Yep.
The very idea of potential, you may recall, is a product of the ego thought system that would keep your true self hidden. You are used to hiding the self of the past about whom you are not well pleased. And you are used to hiding the self of potential, the future self you think you can only dream of being. The ego self was the self you felt safe presenting to the world, the self you believed the world would find acceptable. If you are still presenting this self, you're still in a state of non-acceptance, and whatever peace you're feeling will not last. Whatever access to unity you have experienced will not last because you will not be choosing the time of acceptance. And if you're uncertain about this feeling in yourself, as I am myself, you're probably just normal. But if you can realize it, then maybe you can breathe past it. Because the state of non-acceptance of your own feeling of non-acceptance won't last either. All right. I've called this time both the time of unity and the time of acceptance because you cannot only focus on unity when you are still in need of this full acceptance, or you will not reach the place of sustainability. Every situation and every feeling that you do not like will pull you from union towards separation.
Pull you.
Every feeling that makes you unhappy will pull you right out of that union back into the separation. In order to get beyond that and allow the feelings to, well, let's see what they say. All feelings of non-acceptance lead to a feeling of needing to learn how to reach acceptance of that which you do not like, or how to create a situation that you will like. It's bypassing some of this how-to function, a function of the time of learning that we're heading toward. Realize how freeing it will be to not go through the gyrations of attempting to figure out how to reach acceptance of what you don't like. How freeing it will be to realize that you don't have to do it. How freeing it will be to accept all of your feelings and not to puzzle over which are true and which are false. To realize that you no longer have false feelings, that your feelings are not misleading, but supporting you. They are but calling you to expression of your true self, to true representation of who you are now. True representation of who you are right this second. Remove all the thinking that says you can err in following your feelings. This is not the thinking of the old thought system, not the new. This is the thinking of the old thought system, not the new. This is the thinking comprised of the time delay, of the time of learning, of a time when you used your feelings, opinions, and judgments interchangeably and either thought about them in order to know how to react or suffered the consequences of reacting without thought. Judgment has been left behind, and with it the need for opinions and for thinking about how to react. Reaction has been replaced by response. Calculated mental constructs have been replaced with the true expression. It does not seem so only if you have not allowed yourself to enjoy the freedom of the new, the freedom of being your true self. I call you now to embrace this freedom. What a chapter.
What a chapter. That's because you live in Boston. You now say chapter.
All
I
right.
asked, I asked this lady, I think I may have told you, Lee, who lives not far from me, who has a very proper British accent.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, why do you drop all your R's at the end of the word? Like instead of saying chapter, you say chapter. And she said, that's because that's grammatically correct. The R is silent. I said, who decided that? And she had no answer for that. And I said, what about elocution? And she said, oh, elocution. Hmm. And that was the end of the conversation. But didn't go on after that. I haven't seen her since then. Maybe she's staying away from me. But
Maybe.
it was all in jest, and I hope that I think she understood it. We'll probably have another conversation. I'll let you know what she says.
Sounds great.
Okay, have a wonderful day.
You too, Papa.
Can't
Bye.
wait to see you. You're on your way down.
Soon, soon. Bye.
Bye.